Hello there, dear listener. Tonight, before the world around you fades into the hush of dreams, I invite you to step into a slower rhythm, one carried not by clocks or screens, but by the ancient heartbeat of trees. For countless millennia, trees have been silent witnesses to time, stretching their roots deep into the earth while lifting their branches into the sky. They stand at the threshold between soil and air, matter and spirit, waking life and sleep. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you don't mind, share your location and local time in the comments below. I always love knowing where in the world you are listening from, and it helps me feel as if this little channel is a global forest of souls, each of us resting under the same canopy of stars. Now, imagine yourself lying beneath a great oak tree at dusk. The light is soft, filtered through thousands of leaves that tremble and shimmer in the last sighs of the evening wind. Each leaf seems like a tiny lantern, catching what remains of the day before surrendering it to the night. As you breathe in, you draw the faint aroma of moss, bark, and the cool dampness of the soil. With each exhale, your body settles, grounding itself like the roots spreading beneath you. Trees, in their quiet persistence, remind us that slowness is not weakness. Think of the redwoods of California, some of which sprouted before the Roman Empire was born and are still alive today. Picture their trunks, wide enough for cars to pass through, their crowns rising like cathedrals of wood. To stand beside them is to feel both small and protected, like a child leaning against a guardian who has watched over the world for centuries. Science tells us that trees are more than just solitary beings. Beneath the soil, through networks of fungi and roots, they speak to one another in a kind of subterranean language. This wood wide web, as researchers call it, allows them to share nutrients, warn of dangers, and nurture their young. But long before biologists described this, cultures around the world already sensed it. In Norse mythology, there was Yggdrasil, the world tree, whose roots reached into hidden realms and whose branches stretched to heaven. In Buddhist tradition, the Bodhi tree is where the Buddha found enlightenment, sheltered beneath a canopy of quiet leaves. To think of trees is to think of patience. A tree grows slowly, imperceptibly, its rings adding year by year like whispers layered in wood. Imagine a child planting a sapling, knowing that it will not be fully grown until long after they have become old, perhaps gone. The gift of trees is a promise to the future, a reminder that our lives are but chapters in a story much longer than our own. And there is comfort in this. When you cannot sleep, when your mind feels restless, you can borrow the stillness of trees. They do not hurry, they do not strive. They simply stand, absorbing sunlight, drinking rain, turning air into breath, and death into life. Think of their rhythm as a lullaby written in green. If you close your eyes now, you might hear the whisper of leaves as though they were speaking directly to you. Rest now. The world will wait. Your dreams are safe. And if you listen even closer, beneath the rustle of branches, you may hear the slow pulse of the earth itself, resonating through their roots like a drumbeat deep below. Let us wander a little further in imagination. Suppose you walk into an ancient forest, one of those rare sanctuaries untouched by saws and roads. The canopy closes overhead, filtering light into emerald streams. Shadows move slowly, like drifting clouds underwater. In the hush, your footsteps soften. You sense not emptiness, but presence, the watchful calm of beings, older than you, older than nations, perhaps older than written language itself. Isn't it extraordinary that we live in a world where such sentinels still stand? There is also a playful side to trees, though we often forget it. Children climb them. Birds build nests in them. Squirrels leap from branch to branch like acrobats. Even in their silence, trees host whole communities of life, turning their stillness into celebration. And when the wind comes, the forest transforms into an orchestra, branches swaying like violins, trunks groaning like cellos, leaves fluttering like flutes. The music is soft, but it carries a depth no human hand could compose. Culturally, too, trees have been our companions. In ancient Celtic lore, each tree had a spirit, a guardian quality. The oak symbolized strength, the willow symbolized grief and healing, the yew symbolized eternity. In Japan, cherry blossoms are celebrated not only for their beauty, but for their reminder of impermanence, that life, like petals, is precious because it fades. In West African stories, the baobab tree was called the tree of life, for it stored water, bore fruit, and provided shelter in harsh climates. And so, trees carry stories across civilizations, acting as both metaphors and metaphysical bridges. They are memory keepers, not just of carbon and oxygen, but of meaning. Perhaps that is why, when we sit beneath them, we feel a kind of sacredness, even if we cannot explain it. As you lie listening to these words, let yourself picture a tree you have known. Maybe it was the tree outside your childhood home, whose branches framed your bedroom window. Maybe it was a tree in a park, where you sat with a friend, or alone, watching seasons change. Picture it now, the texture of its bark, the pattern of its shade, the feeling of leaning against it. Hold that image, and notice how your body responds: slower breath, softer heartbeat, a loosening in your shoulders. The truth is, trees are always there, even when unnoticed. While we rush, they remain. While we fret, they endure. And perhaps the secret of sleep is to remember this endurance, to let our minds imitate their patience. So as you drift tonight, imagine your thoughts as leaves, and let them fall gently, one by one, until only the sturdy trunk of your calm remains. This is only the beginning of our journey into the most relaxing facts about trees. In the chapters to come, we will wander deeper into their mysteries, their astonishing lifespans, their secret underground conversations, their mythological meanings, and their role in our future. But for now, simply rest with the thought that you share the world with these silent giants, who continue their vigil long after you have closed your eyes. Sleep, like a tree, is not rushed but grown, and tonight it is yours to grow. If you take a deep breath right now, filling your chest slowly, you are sharing in a gift that trees have given you. Oxygen, the invisible thread binding all life together, flows through your body because of their patient alchemy. Trees are the lungs of Earth, and each inhale is a quiet handshake between you and the forests. Imagine the atmosphere as a great ocean of unseen currents, a sea we swim in without ever noticing. In that ocean, trees act like coral reefs, teeming with exchange. With sunlight as their compass and carbon dioxide as their canvas, they paint the air with life. It is not magic, though it feels like it. It is photosynthesis, a word long and technical, yet behind it lies something simple and serene. A leaf tilts toward the sun, opens its pores, and silently turns light into breath. Picture, for a moment, the Amazon rainforest. From above, it appears as a boundless emerald carpet stretching across the horizon. Within that sea of green, each tree exhales streams of oxygen, mingling with billions of others until the air itself becomes a gift-wrapped present for all creatures who wander beneath the sky. It is said that the Amazon produces a fifth of the planet's oxygen. Though the numbers shift with debate, the symbolism remains. The forest is Earth's great cathedral of breath. Yet, this gift is not confined to faraway jungles. Even the lone tree outside your window is a small factory of life. In spring, its fresh leaves hum with photosynthesis, releasing oxygen molecules that float invisibly toward your lips. In autumn, When those leaves fall and curl into the soil, they return nutrients back to the ground, readying the tree for another cycle. Breathe in, breathe out. The rhythm of your lungs is the echo of theirs. Cultures long ago sensed this kinship. The ancient Chinese spoke of qi, the vital breath of the universe, which trees seem to channel. Native American traditions often saw trees as mediators between humans and the Great Spirit, beings who gave without asking, who turned invisible air into tangible survival. Even today, when you step into a dense forest, the air feels different, cooler, cleaner, more vibrant. Science tells us it is because of higher oxygen and negative ions. Spirit tells us it is because the trees are breathing with us. And so, when we call trees the lungs of Earth, we are not only speaking of oxygen, they also absorb carbon dioxide, one of the gases that warms our climate. They act as guardians, balancing what would otherwise tip the scales toward chaos. Each trunk is a vault of carbon, locked away year after year. Some forests hold so much stored carbon that to cut them is to release centuries of breathing back into the sky. Now, let's wander into a what-if thought. What if tomorrow every tree vanished? The air would not empty overnight, but the silence would grow louder with each passing year. Carbon would climb unchecked, oxygen would wane, animals and people alike would gasp in a thinner, harsher world. The sound of birds would fade, and deserts would creep where green once ruled. Sleep itself would be restless, for the very rhythm of breathing would have lost its ancient partner. But the reverse is also true. What if, instead, we filled deserts with new forests? Imagine the Sahara softened by green corridors, trees swaying where dunes once burned. Imagine cities where every rooftop holds a tree, every street a shaded boulevard. Our breaths would come easier, not only because of oxygen, but because of the sense of calm that comes when we live among givers rather than takers. Consider also how trees mirror our own bodies. They have lungs of sorts, stomata, tiny openings in leaves, inhaling carbon and exhaling oxygen. Their xylem vessels carry water upward, like blood, through veins. Their roots are like our feet, grounding them, absorbing nourishment, and anchoring against storms. Perhaps that is why we so often anthropomorphize them, seeing in their shapes a reflection of ourselves, a reminder that we too are part of this breathing planet. Science supports what intuition already knew. Studies show that hospital patients recover faster when they can see trees outside their windows. Heart rates drop when people walk among forests. Stress dissolves more easily when one sits beneath a leafy canopy. It is as if our bodies, on a cellular level, recognize the companionship of trees. After all, they provide what we lack, and we return what they need. We exhale carbon dioxide, they inhale it. They exhale oxygen, we inhale it. A perfect, endless exchange, like two dancers moving in rhythm across time. And here's a small story to carry into your dreams. Centuries ago, monks in Japan practiced shinrin, yoku, or forest bathing. They would walk slowly beneath cedars, not to exercise, but to breathe deeply, to let the trees do what temples could not. In their stillness, the monks found peace, as though the trees had become silent companions in meditation. Today, this practice has become a global wellness trend, but at its heart, it remains what it always was, a reminder to breathe with trees, to match our lungs to theirs. When you lie in bed tonight, you may notice your breathing. Slow it down, just a little. Inhale gently, as though drawing breath from the leaves of a tree outside your window. Exhale softly, as though offering back what the tree needs. With each cycle, imagine a forest inside you. Branches spreading through your chest, leaves opening with each breath, roots grounding you into the mattress. Sleep comes easier when you align with this rhythm, when you let your lungs become one with Earth's. Trees are not only the lungs of Earth, they are also our lullabies. Listen, and you will hear it. The hush of leaves in wind, the steady exhale of forests, the great breathing of the planet itself. Let that sound cradle you as you drift. You are part of the exchange, part of the patient pulse that has carried life through eons. So rest now, dear listener, knowing that while you sleep, trees will keep breathing for you, filling the air with invisible threads of life. Their patience becomes your peace. Their lungs become your dream. If human lives are candles burning bright, yet brief, then trees are lanterns, glowing across centuries, carrying light far beyond our single flame. To speak of their lifespans is to enter a different scale of time, one where patience becomes immortality, and where years blur into a steady, unhurried breath. Some trees live not decades, but thousands of years. Consider the bristlecone pine, hidden in the high mountains of California and Nevada. Twisted by winds, scarred by storms, these trees have been alive for more than 4,000 years. The oldest among them, named Methuselah, sprouted when pyramids were still young, when Sumerian scribes pressed the first stories into clay tablets. To stand before such a tree is to feel as though time itself has knelt in reverence. Imagine the rings within its trunk, each one a whisper of a passing year. A dry season leaves a narrow ring, a wet season a wider one. Together, they form a library of climate, a diary, written not in ink but in wood. If you pressed your ear against the bark, you might imagine hearing those centuries layered atop one another, like distant echoes of forgotten rains. And yet, the bristlecone is not alone. In the White Mountains, there are pines so ancient they predate the fall of Troy. In Sweden, a spruce named Old Chico has stood for nearly 10,000 years. Though the visible trunk renews itself every few centuries, its root system has endured since the last ice age. Picture that, while glaciers retreated, while mammoths still roamed, this spruce already stretched toward the Sunday. What does it mean for a living being to witness epochs? A single tree may have seen empires rise and fall, languages born and lost, human generations vanishing like waves on a shore. The tree, silent, endures. Perhaps this is why cultures have long imagined trees as bridges to eternity. In Greek mythology, the sacred oak of Dodona was said to whisper Zeus's prophecies. In India, banyan trees were symbols of immortality, their aerial roots dropping like curtains of time. Closer to home, think of the mighty sequoias of California. Their trunks can reach the width of a city street, their crowns towering taller than 20-story buildings. Many are over 3,000 years old. Imagine a child laying a hand against that bark, realizing that the tree was already old when the Bible was first written. To touch such wood is to touch continuity itself. But not all longevity is measured in single trunks. Some trees endure through entire colonies. In Utah lies Pando, the trembling giant. At first glance, it appears to be a forest of aspen trees, tens of thousands of trunks, leaves shimmering like coins in the breeze. But in truth, they are one. A single root system stretching across 100 acres, over 40,000 stems, growing from the same ancient organism. Pando has lived for at least 80,000 years, making it older than most species of mammals alive today. Imagine that a single being, vast and interconnected, quietly existing, while civilizations blink in and out like stars at dawn. And yet, longevity does not make trees immune to fragility. Lightning strikes, wildfires rage, axes cut. 1,000 years can end in minutes. There is a paradox here. Something that outlives dynasties can still be toppled by a single careless act. Perhaps that is why old trees inspire awe. They remind us that resilience is not invincibility. that even the strongest can fall, and thus deserve reverence while they stand. There is also poetry in how trees grow old. Unlike us, they do not wrinkle in despair but twist into character. Their trunks curve, hollow, sometimes splitting open, yet they continue to sprout leaves. A bristlecone pine, bent like a dancer caught in wind, may appear half dead, yet the other half thrives, green needles shimmering against a sky of blue ice. In age, they do not retreat, they adapt, they sculpt themselves into resilience. What if we could live as trees do? Imagine a human life stretching across millennia, watching generations of descendants grow and fade. Would we grow wiser or simply heavier with memory? Would patience deepen, or would we long for an ending? Trees cannot answer, but in their silence, they seem to suggest that longevity is not about boredom, but about rootedness. To endure is to belong deeply. Many stories echo this lesson. There is the tale of the major oak in England, said to be 1,000 years old and shelter for Robin Hood. Whether the outlaw truly rested beneath its shade matters less than the fact that villagers kept the story alive, protecting the tree as though it were part of their own ancestry. In Japan, sacred camphor trees are wrapped in shimana ropes, symbols of purity. Locals bow to them as if age itself has become divine. Scientists, too, have begun to recognize the treasure within ancient trees. Dendrochronologists, tree-ring scientists, read trunks the way historians read scrolls. Through these rings, they reconstruct past droughts, volcanic eruptions, even solar cycles. One tree may carry in its wood the memory of storms no human eye recorded. Thus, old trees are not only guardians of oxygen, but archives of Earth itself. As you drift tonight, consider this. While your own life rushes with appointments and anxieties, somewhere a tree is standing still, measuring time not by minutes, but by centuries. Its calm is contagious. To imagine its patience is to invite your mind into a slower rhythm. So let us end this part with a meditation. Close your eyes. Picture a vast tree, older than nations, its branches heavy with years. Walk toward it in your imagination. Place your hand against its bark, cool and rough. Feel the pulse beneath, not fast like your own heart, but steady, unyielding. Whisper your worries to it. Then listen. The tree does not reply in words, but in presence. And in that presence, you may find the beginnings of sleep. Trees remind us that time is not an enemy, but a river. And while our boats may drift swiftly, theirs are anchored, roots sunk deep. Perhaps that is the secret of their long lives, not resisting time, but surrendering to it, year after year, century after century, until endurance itself becomes a form of grace. Step with me now into the hush of an ancient forest. The air feels heavier here, not oppressive, but rich, as though every breath carries layers of history. Sunlight filters down in broken shafts, painting the ground with shifting mosaics of gold and shadow. Around you rise pillars of wood trees so tall they seem like the columns of a forgotten cathedral, their crowns lost in the canopy above. This is not just a forest. This is a library, each trunk a book, each ring of wood a page, each rustle of leaves a whispered line of poetry written by the earth itself. Ancient forests are not simply collections of old trees. They are time capsules, ecosystems that preserve the memory of the planet. In their soil lie seeds that may have lain dormant for centuries, waiting for the right spark of sun and rain. In their moss grow spores that once brushed against dinosaurs, or perhaps drifted through ice age winds. To walk here is to walk not forward, but backward into time. Imagine, for a moment, the great tropical forests, the Amazon, the Congo Basin, the rainforests of Borneo. Their roots twist like veins through the soil, binding the ground against erosion. Their leaves drink sunlight and exhale oxygen in a slow, steady rhythm. In their canopies live more species than we have even named. Frogs no bigger than your thumb, orchids that bloom only once in decades, monkeys that howl like drums echoing through twilight. Each species is a letter in an alphabet of life, and together they form sentences so vast we have only begun to read them. But ancient forests exist not only in the tropics. Think of the taiga, the great boreal forest that stretches like a green belt across Canada, Russia, and Scandinavia. It is the largest terrestrial biome on Earth, a rolling sea of conifers that breathe frost and withstand winters that would break stone. For thousands of years, these forests have stored carbon, buffered climate, and sheltered migrating herds. If the tropics are libraries of abundance, the taiga is a library of endurance proof that life can survive even in the harshest seasons. And then there are the temperate rainforests of the Pacific Northwest, where cedars and Douglas firs rise into mist. Here, every fallen log becomes a nurse tree, sprouting mosses, fungi, and young saplings, turning death into birth. Walk through them, and you feel as though the forest itself breathes, not only with leaves, but with memory, transforming endings into beginnings. Human cultures have long sensed this sacredness. The Druids of Celtic tradition gathered in groves, believing trees to be gateways between worlds. Indigenous peoples of North America treated old-growth forests as kin, recognizing their wisdom as equal to that of elders. In Japanese Shinto, ancient forests near shrines are considered sacred ground, untouched by the axe, left as sanctuaries for kami spirits dwelling in trees and streams. These stories may seem mythical, but they echo what scientists confirm. Ancient forests are not just places, they are complex systems, balanced in ways that younger forests cannot yet replicate. Consider the role of fungi weaving beneath the soil. In new forests, connections are fragile, but in ancient forests, the mycelial networks run deep, threading roots together across miles. Through these channels, nutrients are shared, warnings sent, alliances forged. A mother tree, centuries old, can funnel sugar to its saplings, ensuring their survival in dim light. Even in death, as it topples, its body becomes habitat, its nutrients cycling back into the soil to nourish others. Nothing is wasted here. Every ending becomes a gift. What if, you may wonder, we could read forests as easily as books? What stories would they tell? Perhaps the tale of a great storm, etched in broken branches and scarred bark, or the memory of volcanic ash, preserved in a growth ring, or the slow retreat of glaciers, marked by the return of seeds. Each story would remind us that Earth itself has a voice, one written not in human words, but in cycles of growth and decay. There is a paradox in ancient forests. They are both fragile and resilient. Fragile because a single fire or road can unravel a web that took millennia to weave. Resilient because they have endured ice ages, droughts, and storms that would have erased lesser things. Their survival is a kind of wisdom, earned through patience and adaptation. Perhaps that is why being in such forests often fills us with humility. They remind us that our lives are threads, while theirs are tapestries. A story may help capture this feeling. In Poland's Białowieża forest, one of Europe's last primeval woodlands, bison roam as they did centuries ago. Walking there feels like stepping into a medieval painting, a place where human footprints are faint compared to the tracks of wolves, lynx, and elk. Scientists study it as a model of what forests looked like before civilization spread. But visitors often describe it as something more, a glimpse into a dream of the world, untouched, eternal. Let us pause here for a small meditation. Close your eyes and picture yourself in such a forest. Hear the creak of old trunks shifting gently in the wind. Feel the soft cushion of moss beneath your feet, the cool dampness of ferns brushing your hands. Let the stillness wrap around you. Notice how, in that quiet, your mind slows. Thoughts that once rushed now drift like leaves on water. This is what forests do. They recalibrate us, aligning our heartbeat with the patience of trees. Yet, as we speak of ancient forests, we must also acknowledge their vulnerability. Logging, mining, and climate change threaten them in ways no storm ever could. Each year, vast stretches vanish, and with them, vanish species and stories never recorded. It is like tearing pages from the library of Earth, pages that cannot be replaced. And so, while this is a calming story for sleep, it is also a gentle plea. May we remember that the guardians of our breath are also guardians of memory, deserving of care. For now, though, as you rest, let go of worry. Imagine that you are lying in the heart of such a forest, surrounded by trees that have stood for 1,000 years. Their branches form a shelter above you. Their roots cradle you like a nest. You are safe here, held within a story that began long before you and will continue long after. Sleep, like the forest, is not rushed. It grows layer upon layer until dreams themselves become a canopy. Ancient forests are not just habitats. They are archives, sanctuaries, and lullabies. To walk among them is to read the earth's oldest poetry. And to dream of them is to remember that time, though fleeting for us, can be infinite in green. Beneath your feet, hidden from your eyes, there is a world as alive and intricate as the branches above. While forests enchant us with their towering trunks and dancing leaves, their true magic lies underground, in the dark where roots intertwine and fungi weave delicate threads of connection. Scientists call it the wood wide web, a phrase both playful and profound, for it is indeed a network, invisible but real, binding trees into a vast community of exchange. Imagine kneeling in the soil, brushing aside the damp leaves, and peering into that secret kingdom. There, filaments of mycelium so fine they appear like threads of light wind through the earth. They attach themselves to tree roots, forming partnerships known as mycorrhizae. Through these unions, trees and fungi trade gifts. The fungi bring minerals from far-off corners of the soil. The trees repay with sugars spun from sunlight. What begins as survival becomes generosity, a quiet commerce more elegant than any market we've built. But the wood wide web is not only about trade, it is about conversation. Through chemical signals, trees send warnings. A willow under attack by insects can alert its neighbors, who begin producing defensive chemicals even before the threat arrives. A dying tree, its crown fading, may pour its last resources into the network, feeding its seedlings with a final act of care. Picture this, a giant cedar, centuries old, collapsing in a storm, yet in its final days pumping sugars into the soil, a farewell gift to the young who will carry on its legacy. Science has confirmed what myths long suspected. Trees are not solitary monks, but members of families. In many forests, mother trees rise above the canopy, their vast roots linked to dozens of younger saplings. These elders distribute nutrients unevenly, giving more to their kin, recognizing them by scent or chemical fingerprint. It is as if the forest itself practices a kind of kinship, ensuring survival not only of the strongest, but of the connected. Cultural traditions anticipated this truth. The Celts believed groves of oaks were sacred because the trees whispered to one another. In some Native American stories, trees were said to talk through the soil, a belief once dismissed as myth, now echoed by biologists with microscopes. Even the Norse myth of Yggdrasil, the world tree whose roots touch hidden realms, feels like a poetic premonition of these unseen networks. What if we, too, could join this underground web? Imagine closing your eyes and feeling your thoughts flow down into the earth, carried along fungal filaments like currents. Imagine sharing not only words, but nourishment, calm, and memory, as easily as roots share carbon and nitrogen. Would loneliness still exist in such a world if every being could feel the heartbeat of every other? A story may illustrate the tenderness of this system. In Canada's coastal forests, researchers once shaded young fir saplings so they could not photosynthesize. Normally, such trees would wither. But when connected to nearby birches through the wood wide web, the birches sent them sugar. The firs survived. Later, in autumn, the birches themselves weakened as their leaves fell. The firs, now strong, sent sugar back. This reciprocity, unseen but undeniable, revealed a truth. In forests, survival is not competition, but cooperation. And the fungi, the silent weavers, are more than couriers. They are composers of resilience. Without them, forests cannot thrive. Some tree species cannot even germinate unless touched by a particular fungus. Think of orchids in the tropics, their seeds like dust, unable to sprout until a fungal partner nurtures them. Or think of pines and oaks, whose roots stretch far deeper through fungal threads than they ever could alone. The wood wide web is not an accessory, it is the foundation. Speculative thought carries us further. What if these networks hold more than nutrients? What if they hold memory? Some scientists wonder whether forests retain echoes of trauma like droughts or plagues, passing that knowledge chemically to future generations. If true, then walking in an old forest is not only walking among trees, but among living memories, embodied in roots. Perhaps that is why some forests feel heavier, as if carrying the weight of centuries in their soil. Philosophically, this web reminds us of our own hidden connections. We too are bound by unseen networks, family ties, friendships, cultures, even the digital web that now links us across continents. Trees teach us that connection is not weakness, but strength. Alone, a tree may wither. Together, they endure droughts, share abundance, and repel threats. Might it be the same for us, if we leaned into community as naturally as they do? Let us pause for a meditation. Close your eyes. Imagine your body as a tree. Feel your roots pressing down through the mattress into the cool earth below. Imagine those roots brushing against others, intertwining, sharing. You are no longer alone in the dark. You are part of a forest, breathing together, exchanging calm, sending and receiving unseen kindness. With each breath, you grow steadier. With each exhale, you send peace into the web. Sleep is no longer isolation, but communion. There is also a haunting truth. These networks can be damaged. When bulldozers cut through soil, when chemicals poison fungi, the threads snap. Trees may still stand, but their whispers fall silent. It is like severing nerves in a body, leaving limbs alive but numb. Protecting forests is not only about protecting trunks and leaves, it is about preserving the invisible symphony beneath them. Yet even in their vulnerability, the wood wide web inspires hope. Because if trees, voiceless and slow, can care for one another through hidden networks, perhaps we too can cultivate invisible kindness. A quiet call to a friend, a gentle word to a stranger, a prayer whispered in the night, these are our own filaments, threading us together. So tonight, as you rest, remember that the earth itself hums with connection below your feet. In your dreams, let yourself wander not only among branches and leaves, but also through the subterranean city of roots and fungi. There, in the hush, you will discover that nothing alive is ever truly alone. And when sleep comes, let it be like joining that web, an interlacing of breath and silence, of self and world, of dreams woven into roots that stretch beyond time. Close your eyes for a moment and listen. Even if you are indoors, perhaps with windows closed, you may still recall the sound of leaves in the wind. It is one of the oldest lullabies on earth. Long before human voices sang songs, long before drums or flutes, there was the forest, sighing, rustling, whispering to the sky. The music of trees is not written on staff paper, but in currents of air. And once you notice it, you realize it has always been there, soft, patient, eternal. Each tree plays its own instrument. The oak, with its broad, leathery leaves, produces a deep, husky rustle, like a low cello vibrating in dusk. The birch, with delicate, trembling foliage, creates a lighter sound, like a flute fluttering high above. Pines sing differently still. When wind passes through their needles, it creates a whisper more like rain than melody, a constant sibilance that soothes as much as it unsettles. Together, these voices merge into an orchestra, one whose conductor is the wind and whose audience is the entire living world. Think of how many nights humans have fallen asleep to this sound. Ancient nomads curled beneath branches, lulled by the symphony overhead. Villagers resting after harvests heard the forest murmur like a distant choir. Even now, recordings of forest sounds help people drift into sleep, echoing a connection written into our biology. Perhaps we are comforted because it reminds us that life is all around, breathing with us, watching over us as we rest. But this music is not uniform. It changes with seasons, weather, and even time of day. In spring, the new leaves are tender and soft, their whispers almost hesitant, like a shy singer testing their voice. In summer, when branches are heavy with green, the chorus swells, full-bodied and strong. Autumn transforms the orchestra once again. As leaves crisp and dry, their rustling becomes sharper, crisper like paper being folded in quick succession. And in winter, when branches stand bare, the wind plays the wood itself. Limbs creak, trunks moan, producing a slower, deeper song. The forest never falls silent, it simply changes key. Cultures across time have listened to these songs and given them meaning. The ancient Greeks believed that dryads, tree spirits, spoke through the rustling of leaves. In Celtic lore, the oaks whispered prophecies, their sounds interpreted by druids. In Japan, Shinto traditions often treated the sigh of pines as the breath of kami, spiritual presences inhabiting the natural world. And in many indigenous American traditions, listening to the forest was a way to hear the voices of ancestors carried on the wind through branches. There is also science here. The sound of rustling is not mere poetry, it is physics. As wind brushes against leaves, it sets them vibrating. Their shapes and textures determine the quality of the sound. Some researchers suggest that the music of leaves might even serve evolutionary purposes. Rustling could help deter insects or signal to animals. But whether practical or accidental, the effect on us is undeniable. Our bodies respond with lowered stress, slower heart rates, and calmer minds. The forest's song is medicine disguised as melody. What if we imagined trees as musicians? A storm would be a wild improvisation, branches clashing like cymbals, trunks bending like bass notes, leaves exploding in percussive bursts. A gentle summer breeze would be a lullaby, each tree humming in harmony. Rain, when it comes, adds percussion, tapping rhythms against leaves, pooling on bark, dripping from canopy to forest floor in syncopated beats. Even thunder becomes part of the score, rolling like a timpani beneath the chorus of swaying crowns. Many stories bring this alive. In the 19th century, poet Henry David Thoreau described lying by Walden Pond, entranced by the whisper of pines. He wrote that their sound was like the organ of nature, filling the air with solemn music. Centuries earlier, Japanese poets crafted haiku, inspired by the rustle of bamboo groves, likening it to the sigh of lovers parting. And in medieval Europe, Monks copied manuscripts by candlelight, while the sound of wind in monastery orchards seeped through stone windows, becoming a background hymn to their prayers. There is something universal in this experience. Across cultures and centuries, humans have always paused to listen. The forest becomes a concert hall, open to anyone willing to sit quietly long enough to hear. And unlike human performances, this one never ends. Night and day, winter and summer, the orchestra plays on, changing its instruments, but never its devotion. Speculative thought stretches further. What if, one day, we could translate these sounds into language? Would the rustle of an oak say, "Be still, be strong"? Would the sigh of a birch whisper, "Bend, do not break"? What if storms themselves were messages, urgent speeches in a dialect of wind and wood? Perhaps what we call noise is, in truth, a grammar we do not yet understand. For sleep, though, we need no translation. The point is not to decipher, but to receive. So let us try an exercise. Lie back wherever you are and close your eyes. Imagine you are in a grove at twilight. A cool wind drifts through. First, you hear one tree, a willow, its branches swaying gently, producing a soft, shushing sound, like someone telling you a bedtime secret. Then another joins in, a maple, its leaves clicking lightly together like beads on a necklace. Soon, an entire chorus surrounds you, weaving sounds into a cocoon. You feel held, as if hundreds of gentle voices are rocking you toward rest. Even silence in a forest is musical. Between gusts of wind, when leaves pause their rustle, you can hear the deeper notes, the creak of a trunk, the distant snap of a twig, the muffled thud of a branch dropping to earth. These bass notes remind us that forests are not only alive but moving, shifting, composing themselves endlessly. And so, when you next hear leaves in the night, treat it not as background noise, but as invitation. It is the earth singing you to sleep. It is the memory of every ancestor who ever lay beneath a tree and felt safe. It is the eternal orchestra, reminding you that you belong to a world much older and gentler than you think. Tonight, as you drift, imagine that sound in your dreams. The forest plays not to demand your attention, but to accompany your rest. No ticket is required, no applause expected, only your breath, syncing with the rhythm of leaves. The music will continue long after you fall asleep, long after this night passes, long after you and I are gone. And that, perhaps, is its greatest comfort, the assurance that the world's lullaby never ends. Long before science could name photosynthesis or describe root systems, humans looked at trees and saw mysteries too vast for simple explanation. Across continents and centuries, cultures imagined them not just as plants, but as symbols, bridges between earth and sky, life and death, human and divine. If rivers were roads and mountains were fortresses, then trees were temples, and their myths still whisper through our imagination. In the cold north, the Norse spoke of Yggdrasil, the world tree. It was no ordinary ash, but the axis of the cosmos itself. Its roots plunged into hidden realms, one into hell, the land of the dead, another into Jotunheim, the land of giants, and a third into the spring of wisdom. Its branches stretched into the heavens, supporting the abode of the gods. Imagine standing at its base, gazing upward until your neck aches, realizing you are looking not just at wood, but at the very scaffolding of reality. Beneath Yggdrasil, all creatures were connected. Dragons gnawed at its roots, eagles perched in its branches, and humans lived in its shade. To dream of Yggdrasil is to dream of a universe stitched together by bark and leaf. Far to the east, another tree bore the weight of revelation. In India, under the cool shade of a Bodhi tree, Siddhartha Gautama sat in meditation until he became the Buddha. For 49 days he did not rise, and when enlightenment finally came, It was as if the rustle of the tree itself confirmed the truth. Ever since, Bodhi trees have been planted near temples, their heart-shaped leaves trembling in the breeze like tiny bells of wisdom. Imagine pilgrims today, sitting beneath their shade, listening to those leaves murmur, hoping some echo of enlightenment might brush against their hearts. In Celtic lands, groves of oaks were sacred to druids. They believed trees were more than shelter, they were living oracles. To walk into an oak grove was to enter a sanctuary where gods could be heard in the swaying of branches. The very word druid may be connected to the oak, symbolizing wisdom rooted in nature. Picture priests in white robes, gathering mistletoe from the highest branches, holding ceremonies beneath the vast canopy. The oak was their Yggdrasil, their bridge between realms. And in Africa, the mighty baobab was called the tree of life. With swollen trunks that store water and branches that resemble roots stretching into the sky, baobabs appear upside down, as if they grew from another world. In times of drought, they gave fruit, water, bark, and shelter, sustaining entire communities. Legend said that when gods planted the baobab, it protested its shape so much that it was shoved into the earth upside down. Yet, in that inversion, it became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that survival often comes from unexpected forms. Even the deserts hold tree myths. In the Middle East, date palms were sacred, providing sweetness and shade in barren lands. To plant a date palm was to ensure survival for generations. In ancient Mesopotamia, the tree of life often appeared in carvings, flanked by winged beings, suggesting that even in the cradle of civilization, people believed in a cosmic tree linking heaven and earth. Why did trees inspire such myths? Perhaps because their very shape is symbolic. Roots plunge downward, branches reach upward, trunks stand between like a diagram of the universe itself. They embody the human longing to connect realms, the underworld, the earthly, the celestial. To see a tree is to see the idea of balance drawn in living form. Many stories bring these myths to life. In Norse sagas, Odin hung himself upon Yggdrasil for 9 nights, pierced by his own spear, in search of wisdom. When he finally glimpsed the runes of knowledge, he did so, hanging between life and death, suspended on a tree. In Christian tradition, another tree becomes central. The tree of knowledge in Eden, whose fruit opened human eyes to good and evil. From the same symbol tree springs both salvation and fall. In China, there was the Fusang tree, said to grow in the east where the sun rises. Birds rested in its branches, and from it the sun was lifted into the sky each morning. In Aztec mythology, the ceiba tree stood at the center of the world, its roots piercing the underworld, its branches supporting heaven. Shamans believed that in dreams, one could climb the ceiba and travel between realms. Even today, in parts of Central America, ceibas are treated with reverence, never cut down, because they are still seen as houses of spirits. Speculative thought opens another path. What if these myths were not just stories, but memories of an ancient intuition? Humans sensed the wood wide web before science described it. They imagined Yggdrasil because they already felt trees connected everything. They revered the Bodhi tree because sitting beneath leaves truly alters the mind, reducing stress, changing brainwaves, encouraging stillness. In their myths, they encoded truths we now rediscover through biology and psychology. Let us pause for reflection. Tonight, if you close your eyes, imagine walking through a forest of myths. Each tree you pass is not just wood and leaf, but a story. You see Yggdrasil rising in the north, its roots humming with power. You see the Bodhi tree, its heart-shaped leaves glowing like lanterns. You pass the baobab, swollen with water, laughing at its own strange shape. You bow before the oak grove, where druids once whispered to the gods. You touch the saber and feel a vibration that is not of this world. Slowly, these trees surround you, their myths forming a circle, a protective ring, and you feel safe, carried not only by branches, but by centuries of belief. There is comfort here. If people across continents, separated by oceans, all turn to trees to symbolize life, connection, wisdom, then perhaps they were pointing to something universal. Trees are more than biology. They are archetypes of calm and continuity. They root us when we feel adrift. They lift us when we feel small. They remind us that we are not the first to seek meaning, nor will we be the last. As you drift tonight, let your dreams carry you into those mythic groves. Walk beneath Yggdrasil, sit under the Bodhi, taste the sweetness of date palms, touch the upside-down baobab, feel the universality of trees as sacred companions. Sleep, then, becomes not just rest, but a pilgrimage, guided by roots and branches, carrying you into a sanctuary older than time itself. Imagine walking into a forest after a long, stressful day. At first, your shoulders are tense, your thoughts tangled, your breath shallow. But as you step deeper into the shade, something begins to change. The air feels cooler, fresher. The sound of leaves rustling overhead begins to soften the noise inside your head. You inhale, and there is a fragrance, pine, moss, damp earth that seems to cleanse more than your lungs. It cleanses your spirit. Slowly, the tightness in your body loosens. You are healing, though no medicine has been swallowed, no doctor has arrived. The forest itself is the physician. This idea that trees can heal is not a modern invention. In Japan, there is a practice known as Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing. Developed in the 1980 seconds, it was not about exercise or hiking, but about immersion. People were encouraged to walk slowly among trees, breathing deeply, allowing their senses to drink in the forest. Scientists studied this practice and discovered that it lowered blood pressure, reduced stress hormones, improved immune function, and lifted mood. The mere act of being among trees changed the chemistry of the body. How could this be? Part of the answer lies in phytoncides, the natural oils trees release to protect themselves from pests. When we inhale these compounds, they soothe our nervous systems, lowering anxiety and boosting immune cells. Another part lies in psychology. The quiet, the green light filtering through leaves, the rhythm of natural sounds, all of these calm the mind. It is as though our bodies remember something ancient, that we evolved in forests, and to return is to return home. But long before laboratories measured hormones, cultures knew this truth intuitively. In Celtic lore, sacred groves were places of healing. In India, banyan trees were said to grant rest to travelers, their vast canopies offering both shade and renewal. In Africa, baobabs were not only sources of food and water, but also of spiritual restoration, their presence seen as protective. Around the world, trees were understood not just as resources, but as companions in health. Many stories illustrate this beautifully. In the 19th century, European doctors sometimes prescribed walks in pine forests to patients with lung ailments, believing the resinous air could heal. In the Himalayas, monasteries were often built among cedar groves, so monks could meditate surrounded by calm. Even today, hospitals in some countries design gardens with trees outside patient windows because recovery rates improve when greenery is visible. Imagine a patient, weary and in pain, glancing out to see a willow swaying gently. That movement becomes a silent reassurance. Life continues, and so will you. Speculative thought opens the door wider. What if, in the future, cities are designed as forests? What if hospitals were surrounded not by parking lots, but by groves of oaks and maples? What if office workers took breaks, not in sterile cafeterias, but beneath canopies of leaves? Would our collective stress dissolve? Would anxiety and depression decline? Science suggests the answer may be yes. If a few hours in a forest lowers stress hormones, imagine what a lifetime among trees could do. There is also a spiritual layer to this healing. Some people describe forests as sanctuaries, where prayer feels more natural, as though leaves amplify the words. Others say that grief softens when carried into the woods, because trees seem to absorb sorrow the way they absorb carbon dioxide, transforming it into something gentler. In this sense, forests are more than doctors. They are therapists, listeners who do not speak but who never interrupt, never judge. What if we treated our own minds like forests? Imagine your thoughts as trees, some tall, some crooked, some young, some ancient. When storms of anxiety sweep through, the forest bends but does not break. The trick is not to silence thoughts, but to let them rustle, sway, and then settle. This inner forest becomes a mirror of the outer one, reminding us that calm is not the absence of sound, but the presence of harmony. A meditation may help anchor this. Close your eyes. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a grove. Step forward slowly, feeling moss underfoot. Hear the hush of branches moving above. Inhale deeply, drawing in the green fragrance. With each breath, imagine your heart rate slowing, your muscles loosening. Sit on a fallen log. Place your hand against bark, rough and grounding. Whisper your worries into the air and imagine the trees absorbing them, exhaling peace back into your lungs. Stay here as long as you like. The forest will not rush you. Modern life often feels like constant acceleration. Deadlines, screens, traffic, noise. But trees move at another rhythm. They remind us that healing takes time. A broken branch does not regrow overnight, but it does regrow. A scar on bark does not vanish, but it becomes part of the tree's story. In their presence, we learn that our own wounds, physical or emotional, do not mean the end of growth. They mean transformation. Even the simple act of leaning against a trunk has measurable effects. Studies show that grounding, placing bare skin against soil or wood, reduces inflammation in the body. But beyond the data, there is feeling. The coolness of bark against your back, the stability of something that has stood for decades or centuries. In that contact, you borrow the tree's patience. You remember that you are not fragile glass but flexible wood, capable of bending without breaking. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, imagine yourself in a forest bath of dreams. Each inhale brings in the forest's calm. Each exhale releases your fatigue. Picture the trees around your bed, not crowding, but standing like guardians. Their leaves whisper in rhythm with your breath. Their fragrance lingers in your imagination, refreshing you with every sigh. You are safe. You are healing. Trees as healers remind us of something essential, that rest is not a luxury, but a necessity, and that nature has always known how to give it. As you close your eyes, trust in that ancient knowledge. The same way a tree heals itself, closing wounds with new bark, sending energy to struggling branches, you too will heal, slowly, gently, in the quiet rhythm of night. When you think of a tree, the first image that comes to mind is often its leaves. They are the most expressive part, fluttering like hands raised toward the sun, whispering when wind brushes past, painting the seasons with changing colors. Leaves are more than appendages. They are pages in the story of life, each one a unique design, each one a quiet masterpiece. Consider the sheer variety. Some leaves are broad and flat, like the great fans of banana plants, designed to capture every drop of sunlight. Others are needle-thin, like those of pines and firs, evolved to withstand cold winds and conserve water. Some curl like ribbons, some split into delicate fronds, some shine waxy and smooth, while others are rough with hair-like textures. To walk through a forest is to stroll through a gallery where every leaf is a brushstroke of evolution's art. Shapes tell stories. The lobed leaves of oaks resemble open palms, sturdy and welcoming. Maples, with their pointed star-like forms, spread out like sparks of fire. Ferns unroll their fronds in spirals, echoing patterns found in galaxies and seashells. Even the simplest leaf hides complexity. Veins, branching like rivers across a landscape, carrying water and sugars with mathematical precision. It is as though each leaf is a map of its own, charting the flow of life within itself. Colors, too, are a language. In spring, tender greens shimmer almost translucent, signaling new beginnings. Summer deepens those greens into fullness, dense and reassuring. Autumn ignites them into golds, crimsons and ambers, as if the trees decide to end the year with a festival of light. Then winter arrives, and though many leaves fall, those that remain evergreen stand proud in their persistent green, a promise of continuity through cold. Cultures have always noticed this palette. Japanese poets wrote countless verses about maple leaves turning scarlet, likening their fall to fleeting love. In China, bamboo leaves symbolized resilience, bending but never breaking. In medieval Europe, laurel leaves crowned victors, their evergreen nature seen as proof of eternal glory. Even today, we use leaf as metaphor. To turn over a new leaf means to begin again, to seek renewal. Mini-stories remind us of how leaves shape memory. A child collecting autumn leaves in a park may press them into books, years later finding them brittle yet still vivid in color. A lover may tuck a single leaf into a letter, as a keepsake of a shared walk. In ancient times, healers ground leaves into medicines, discovering remedies hidden in their veins. To hold a leaf is to hold both art and utility, beauty and survival in one fragile form. Science deepens the wonder. Each leaf is a solar panel, transforming sunlight into energy. Chlorophyll gives leaves their green color, absorbing red and blue light, reflecting green back to our eyes. When autumn arrives, chlorophyll breaks down, revealing pigments that were always present: carotenoids, glowing yellow, anthocyanins, blazing red. What looks like dying is, in truth, a revelation, the unveiling of hidden colors before the leaf finally drifts away. Speculative thought carries us further. What if leaves could speak in voices? Would maples shout brightly, while pines whispered softly? Would autumn leaves laugh as they danced downward, while evergreens hummed lullabies through winter? What if the patterns in their veins were not only transport systems, but texts, a script we have not yet learned to read? Perhaps the forest floor, littered with fallen leaves, is a manuscript too vast for human comprehension, written in the calligraphy of nature. There is also a spiritual symbolism. In many traditions, leaves represent cycles: birth, growth, decay, renewal. A fresh leaf is hope, a falling leaf is impermanence, a bare branch is patience, waiting for spring. Buddhism often uses the image of a falling leaf to teach detachment. It lets go when the time is right, drifting freely, neither resisting nor clinging. To watch a leaf fall is to glimpse wisdom in motion. Imagine now a meditation. Close your eyes. Picture a single leaf before you. Notice its shape, perhaps serrated, perhaps smooth. Trace its veins like rivers across a map. See how sunlight makes it glow, thin yet strong. As you breathe in, imagine drawing in its calm. As you breathe out, imagine letting go, as gently as it will when autumn comes. Now imagine yourself lying beneath a tree, thousands of leaves above, all swaying in rhythm. Together, they form a canopy of protection, a roof of breathing green. You feel sheltered. as though the world has placed its hand gently over you. Mini-stories stretch across cultures. In India, the peepal leaf with its elegant heart shape became sacred because the Buddha meditated beneath it. In Greece, olive leaves symbolized peace, woven into crowns for victors. In the Americas, tobacco leaves were burned in rituals, their smoke rising as prayer. Each culture chose a different leaf, but all saw something more than botany. They saw meaning, presence, a reminder of connection. Even in literature, leaves abound. Walt Whitman wrote in Leaves of Grass about the interconnectedness of all beings, each blade of grass a reflection of the human soul. Robert Frost likened autumn leaves to a fire, brief but brilliant. Haiku poets compared falling leaves to moments of clarity, reminding readers that beauty is brief and that brevity is its power. Leaves are small, but they teach a great truth. That detail matters. We often admire trees as whole grand trunks, towering crowns, but it is the multitude of individual leaves that make them what they are. Each contributes to the collective. Each catches a drop of light. Each breathes a bit of air. Without them, the tree is bare. With them, it thrives. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, imagine leaves around you, not paper, not screens, but real leaves. Picture their shapes and colors, infinite and varied. Imagine them rustling softly, creating a soundscape to calm your mind. Each leaf becomes a thought, and like autumn leaves, you let them fall one by one until only stillness remains. The diversity of leaves reminds us of life's variety, how many forms beauty can take, how many shapes resilience can wear. Whether green and tender or crimson and brittle, each has its place, each has its season. And perhaps that is the final lesson, that we too are like leaves, fleeting yet essential, fragile yet luminous, each one part of a greater canopy. Every great tree, no matter how vast its trunk or how high its crown, begins as something almost invisible, a seed. In your hand, it may look like nothing more than a speck, a fragile husk carried by wind, water, or bird. Yet inside that small shell lies the blueprint for centuries of growth, the memory of ancestors, and the quiet determination to reach for the sky. Seeds are promises written in miniature, proof that greatness often begins in silence. Picture the acorn, smooth and round, fitting easily into a child's palm. Within it lies the potential for an oak that might live for hundreds of years, sheltering foxes, owls, and generations of humans. Picture the tiny winged seed of a maple, spinning gently as it falls, like a helicopter crafted by nature. It may land in soil cracks along sidewalks or riversides, sprouting green life in unexpected places. Picture the seed of a redwood so small you could balance it on your fingertip, yet it can grow into the tallest living thing on earth. In each case, immensity is hidden within minuteness, eternity folded into something so easily overlooked. The journey of a seed is perilous. Many are eaten by animals, scorched by sun, drowned by floods, or buried too deep to sprout. Yet trees answer with abundance. A single oak can produce thousands of acorns, a single pine, millions of cones, ensuring that at least some find the right place to root. It is a lesson in persistence. For every towering forest, countless seeds have tried and failed, and still the effort continues, year after year, season after season. Cultures have long revered seeds as symbols of potential. In Hindu philosophy, the bija seed is used as a metaphor for the essence of things, the smallest part that holds infinite meaning. In Christian tradition, the mustard seed symbolizes faith, tiny, yet capable of moving mountains. In African proverbs, the seed is often equated with legacy. What you plant today, others will harvest tomorrow. Across the world, people recognized that within the smallest package lies the largest hope. Mini stories, bring these truths alive. In the 20th century, scientists discovered seeds preserved in Siberian permafrost, more than 30,000 years old. When carefully thawed and planted, they sprouted life reaching across millennia. In Israel, archaeologists unearthed a 2,000-year-old date seed from Masada. Planted in modern soil, it grew into a palm tree, bridging ancient and present with green leaves shimmering in the sunday. Imagine holding such a seed in your hand, knowing it carried life across centuries of silence, waiting patiently for its moment. Science explains the miracle with precision. Seeds contain an embryo, a store of nutrients, and a protective coat. When conditions are right, warmth, moisture, oxygen, the shell softens and the embryo awakens. Roots push downward, seeking darkness and water. Shoots push upward, seeking light. In that first fragile movement, the tree sets its path, grounded in soil, reaching for sky. It is a choreography repeated billions of times each year. Yet each sprouting is unique, a small defiance against odds. Speculative thought opens wider doors. What if seeds carry more than DNA? What if they carry memory not only of species but of place, echoing soil and climate from which they came? Perhaps when a seed sprouts, it remembers the rains of its ancestors, the winds that once carried it, the sun that once warmed its lineage. And what if human souls, too, are seeds, waiting for the right conditions, kindness, patience, love, to awaken our fullest selves? Seeds also remind us of patience. A human wants quick results, but a seed does not hurry. It may wait years, even decades, for the right moment. Some desert seeds lie dormant until rare rains come. Some pine cones open only after fire, using destruction as opportunity. What seems like delay is wisdom. Seeds know that timing is everything, and that waiting can be as powerful as acting. A meditation may help you feel this truth. Close your eyes. Imagine a seed resting in the palm of your hand. It is small, light, almost unimpressive, yet within it is a forest. Within it is shelter, shade, fruit, air. Imagine planting it in soil. See roots unfurl like threads of silk, reaching into darkness. See a shoot pierce the soil, lifting toward the light. Watch it grow slowly, year by year, until branches spread wide, until birds nest in its crown, until children rest in its shade. All of this, from something you could have easily overlooked. Let this image remind you. Within you, too, lies more potential than you know. Mini stories appear even in everyday life. A child planting beans in a schoolyard learns wonder when green shoots emerge. A gardener waits weeks for tulips to rise, then celebrates their burst of color. Farmers sow seeds each season, with faith in harvests they cannot yet see. In each act, seeds teach trust that we plant not for today, but for tomorrow, that growth requires both patience and hope. There is also poetry in their endings. A seed, once it sprouts, ceases to be what it was. Its coat splits, its form dissolves, its very identity vanishes into something greater. To live, it must die as a seed. Perhaps that is why so many spiritual traditions use the seed as metaphor for transformation. That what we are now is only a beginning, and that becoming more means letting go of what we were. So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, picture yourself as a seed. Small, yes, perhaps weary, perhaps uncertain, but within you lies something immense. Close your eyes and imagine roots beginning to spread, dreams unfurling, patience becoming strength. Tomorrow may not reveal the full tree you will become, but the process has begun. Rest in that knowledge, as seeds rest in soil, waiting quietly, confidently, for the right season to grow. Seeds remind us that from the smallest beginnings come the greatest continuities. Every forest began as whispers in the dark, every tree as a promise no larger than a fingertip. To honor seeds is to honor possibility itself, the quiet assurance that life finds a way, always, again and again. There is a moment each year when forests turn into fire. It happens quietly at first, just a single leaf, blushing red, just a single branch touched with amber. But soon, the transformation sweeps across hills and valleys until the world itself seems aflame with color. Autumn has arrived, and with it, the grand finale of leaves, a farewell symphony written in gold, crimson, and rust. To walk through such a forest is to step into a painting that moves. Leaves tumble slowly, spiraling like dancers descending from a stage. Paths crunch softly underfoot, releasing scents of earth and spice. Light filters differently now, no longer the piercing white of summer, but a gentler radiance, tinted with warmth, as though the sun itself wishes to linger before its winter retreat. The air is crisp, carrying both chill and clarity, sharpening senses while soothing the spirit. Why do leaves change color? Science answers simply, as days shorten and temperatures fall, trees begin preparing for rest. Chlorophyll, the green pigment that fuels photosynthesis, breaks down. In its absence, hidden pigments emerge, carotenoids glowing yellow, anthocyanins blazing red, tannins shading brown. What seems like death is, in truth, revelation. The colors were always there, concealed, waiting for their moment to shine. Autumn is not the end of leaves, but their brief unveiling, a reminder that even in parting, beauty can flourish. But cultures saw more than chemistry. To the Japanese, autumn leaves momiji symbolize impermanence. Poets composed countless haiku about their fleeting beauty, comparing them to love, to sorrow, to the passing of time. In medieval Europe, autumn was harvest season, a time of abundance and gratitude, when golden fields mirrored golden leaves. In Native American traditions, the fiery colors were often seen as gifts from the Great Spirit, a reminder to prepare for the hardships of winter with reverence and respect. Many stories capture the intimacy of these moments. Imagine a monk in Kyoto centuries ago, sitting beneath a maple grove, watching scarlet leaves drift onto temple stones. His brush moves, writing verses about the brevity of beauty, about the necessity of letting go. Imagine a farmer in France in the 1600s, pausing in his harvest work, wiping sweat from his brow, and gazing at chestnut trees glowing like embers against the sky. Imagine a child today, running through piles of fallen leaves, tossing them into the air, laughing as they rain down in bursts of color. Across centuries, the joy and reflection of autumn remains unchanged. There is also a spiritual symbolism in this transformation. Leaves do not resist their fate. They let go when the time is right, floating downward with grace. In their surrender, they enrich the soil, feeding the very tree that once held them. It is a cycle of generosity, beauty in life, nourishment in death, renewal in what follows. Perhaps this is why watching leaves fall often stirs both sadness and peace in us. We see our own lives mirrored in their arc, vibrant beginnings, radiant middle, gentle endings. Speculative thought brings another angle. What if autumn is the forest's way of telling stories? Each color might be a sentence, each leaf a word. A hillside of crimson could be a tale of passion, a valley of gold, a tale of gratitude. What if we could read the language of leaves, understanding their colors as coded messages? Perhaps they whisper not only to each other but to us, reminding us that change is inevitable and that change, though bittersweet, is beautiful. Science and poetry meet again in the phenomenon of leaf peeping, a modern tradition where people travel great distances just to witness autumn colors. From New England in the United States to the Japanese Alps, tourists flock to see landscapes transformed into living mosaics. It is remarkable, In an age obsessed with speed, people will slow down, even stop entirely, to watch leaves burn brightly before fading. Trees teach patience, even in their farewells. A meditation can help you feel this. Close your eyes. Picture yourself walking through an autumn forest. The ground is thick with leaves, each step releasing a satisfying crunch. Above, branches sway with the last of their colorful crowns. A breeze comes, and dozens of leaves descend around you, swirling gently. One lands on your shoulder, light as a feather. You pick it up and notice its veins, its color, its fragility. For a moment, you hold it to your chest as though it were a message meant just for you. Then, as the breeze rises again, you let it go, watching it drift back to the earth. In that release, you feel a weight inside yourself loosen. Even in literature, autumn has always been a muse. Poets from Keats to Frost wrote of the season's richness, its bittersweet mix of abundance and decline. Painters captured its fiery landscapes, composers its melancholy hush. But beyond art, autumn is also practical, a time of harvest, preparation, storage. Perhaps that is why it resonates so deeply. It is not only beautiful but useful, not only fleeting but essential. In the end, the symphony of leaves is both spectacle and lesson. It shows us that endings need not be grim. They can be colorful, generous, even joyful. As you drift into sleep tonight, imagine yourself lying beneath a canopy of autumn leaves. Their colors glow above you, like stained glass in a cathedral. The wind plays softly, stirring them into motion. One by one, they let go, drifting around you, covering you in a quilt of gold and red. You are warm, you are safe, and you are reminded that every ending carries within it the seed of renewal. So let the forest's autumn song guide you into dreams. Let the colors linger in your mind's eye. And as you close your eyes, know this: change is not loss, but transformation, and beauty is never truly gone. It only shifts form, like a leaf returning to the soil, like a dream becoming rest. The earth is home to more than 3 trillion trees, yet among them, a few stand out as legends, each with a story so unique that it feels almost mythical. They rise like guardians of their landscapes, shaping not only ecosystems, but also human imagination. To speak of extraordinary trees is to travel across continents, climates, and centuries, encountering living wonders that seem less like plants and more like monuments carved by time. Begin with the baobab of Africa, often called the tree of life. Its massive trunk swells like a reservoir, capable of storing thousands of gallons of water. In the dry savannas of Madagascar, where rains may be rare, baobabs become lifelines, offering moisture, fruit, bark, and shelter. Their branches twist upward like roots in the sky, giving the impression that they grow upside down. Legends say the gods planted the baobab carelessly, and in anger, it thrust itself into the earth head first. Yet in that inversion lies its power, survival. To stand beneath a baobab at sunset, with its silhouette sprawling across an orange horizon, is to feel awe at life's inventiveness. Travel west, and you meet the sequoias of California, giants so vast they seem like natural skyscrapers. Some sequoias weigh more than 6,000 tons, their trunks wide enough to drive a car through. General Sherman, the largest known living tree, stands taller than a 27-story building. It has been alive for more than 2,000 years, silently watching civilizations rise and crumble. Imagine placing your hand on its bark, realizing that your entire life is but a breath in its story. The sequoia does not rush. Its strength lies in patience, in the slow accumulation of rings, in roots interlinked with neighbors that keep them upright through storms. On the Canary Islands grows another marvel, the dragon blood tree. Its crown spreads like an umbrella, shading the volcanic soil beneath. Cut into its bark, and it bleeds a red resin once prized in ancient medicine, dyes, and rituals. Myths claimed it was born from the blood of a slain dragon, hence its name. Today, its silhouette against the horizon seems otherworldly, as if it belongs not to Earth, but to a planet imagined in dreams. In India, the great banyan tree in Kolkata spreads not upward but outward. Over centuries, its aerial roots dropped from branches, embedding themselves into the soil until they became trunks of their own. Today, the great banyan covers more than 4 acres, appearing as a forest, though it is only one tree. To walk beneath it is to enter a labyrinth of shade, where time feels suspended. Pilgrims and travelers for centuries have rested in its embrace, sheltered not only from sun but from sorrow. There are also the fragile wonders. In Yemen, the Socotra archipelago hosts trees so strange that they look like surreal sculptures. The desert rose twists into pink, swollen shapes. The cucumber tree bears odd, gourd-like trunks. Among them, the dragon blood tree reigns supreme, casting its umbrella-like crown against skies of impossible blue. This island, isolated for millions of years, has become a living gallery of evolution's eccentric art. Many stories arise wherever these trees stand. In Poland, there is a grove known as the Crooked Forest, where more than 400 pines bend at their bases, curving like hooks before rising straight again. No one knows why. Some say it was human intervention, shaping wood for ships. Others suggest snow or storms bent them when young. Walking among them, you feel as if you've entered a realm where physics itself has softened, where trees dance in frozen boughs. In Senegal, the sacred baobab of Kaolack holds the remains of griots, storytellers, and historians within its hollow trunk. Villagers believed that being buried within the tree preserved not only bodies but memories, ensuring that wisdom lived on. The baobab, then, was not just a tree, but an archive of human voices. Science admires these trees for their adaptations, but culture elevates them into symbols. The baobab is survival, the sequoia endurance, the banyan community, the dragon blood tree mystery. Each reminds us that the planet's creativity surpasses our imagination. We build cathedrals, but trees have been cathedrals long before stone was stacked. We invent myths, but trees embody myth in their very forms. Speculative thought can carry us further. What if these extraordinary trees are more than anomalies? What if they are signals, markers left by Earth itself, to remind us of resilience, patience, and creativity? A baobab whispers, "You can endure drought." A sequoia declares, "Strength comes from time." A banyan teaches, "Growth is not only upward, but outward, into community." A dragon blood tree insists, "Even wounds can create beauty." Perhaps we are meant not only to admire them, but to learn from them, to let their forms become metaphors shaping our own lives. Let us pause for meditation. Close your eyes. Imagine walking across landscapes of wonder. You see a sequoia rising like a mountain, its bark glowing in afternoon sunday. You press your hand against it and feel steadiness seep into your body. Next, you step beneath a banyan, its canopy shading you like the roof of a great temple. You rest, listening to birds nesting in its branches. Then, in a desert, you approach a baobab. You drink from its fruit, sweet and sustaining, and feel gratitude swell within you. Finally, you stand before a dragon blood tree, its crown wide, its resin gleaming like ruby tears. You bow, sensing mystery beyond words. Each tree offers not only shade, but wisdom. Each an altar where you can lay down your burdens. These extraordinary trees remind us that Earth is not ordinary. It is layered with marvels, with shapes that seem to bend the rules of possibility. And though they are rare, they are not untouchable. You can visit them, see them, breathe beneath their branches. And even if you cannot, you can dream of them, carry their images into sleep, letting their strength and strangeness guard your rest. So tonight, as you drift into dreams, let yourself wander from continent to continent, tree to tree. Touch the bark of giants, rest in the shade of labyrinthine canopies, marvel at crowns shaped like umbrellas or flames. Let the diversity of forms remind you that there is no single way to be strong, no single way to be beautiful. Trees teach endless variations, each one valid, each one radiant. Extraordinary trees are more than spectacles. They are lessons, guardians, companions. And as you sleep, they continue their vigil, standing patient beneath stars, living monuments in a world that is itself extraordinary. If you were to slice through the trunk of a tree carefully, reverently, as scientists do, you would find not chaos but order, concentric rings, perfectly nested, each one a memory. These circles are the diary of a tree, recording not in words but in wood the passing of years. To read them is to read time itself, written patiently, silently, with ink made of growth and pause. Each ring tells a story. A wide ring means abundance, a year of generous rain, fertile soil, long summers. A narrow ring whispers of hardship, drought, frost, or competition. Together, the rings form a biography of resilience. Imagine a bristlecone pine, 4,000 years old. Within its rings lie records of Egyptian pharaohs, Roman conquests, Viking voyages. Long before human historians began their work, trees were already keeping archives, inscribed layer by layer beneath their bark. Scientists call this study dendrochronology, literally, the measurement of time through trees. By aligning rings from living and ancient specimens, they can build continuous timelines stretching back thousands of years. From these rings, they know when volcanoes erupted, when rivers flooded, when droughts lasted for decades. A single tree may carry in its heart the memory of entire civilizations' rise and fall, like a witness who never speaks but never forgets. Consider the eruption of Mount Tambora in 1815, the largest volcanic event in recorded history. Ash darkened the sky, cooling the planet, causing the year without a summer. Crops failed, famine spread. In tree rings from North America to Europe, that year appears as a narrow, pale band, a silent reminder of how one event reshaped the world. Or think of medieval droughts in the American Southwest, revealed in the rings of ancient pines. These droughts likely contributed to the decline of the ancestral Puebloans who abandoned their cliff dwellings. Human history and tree history intertwine, each leaving marks upon the other. Yet these rings are not only scientific, they are poetic. To imagine time as circles rather than lines is to change how we see life. Trees do not move forward as we do, counting years as steps. They expand outward, each ring holding the past, the trunk a layered embrace of everything that has ever happened. If humans carried our memories this way, we would not grow older by shedding, but by adding each year another circle, another layer, making us wider, stronger, more complex. Cultures have long sensed this symbolism. The Celts believed trees held wisdom precisely because of their longevity, each layer an accumulation of knowledge. In Japanese Zen gardens, the rings of cut stumps are admired as symbols of impermanence and continuity. Even in art, concentric circles often appear as motifs of eternity, echoing the structure of rings. Trees remind us that life is not linear, but cyclical, always circling back, always carrying traces of what came before. Many stories emerge from this truth. Imagine a scientist in the Arizona desert, crouched over a slab of wood from an ancient juniper. As she counts the rings under a magnifying lens, she is also counting centuries. With each narrow line, She pictures years of hardship. With each wide one, she imagines rains falling generously. She is not only studying data, she is listening to a voice older than history books, or picture a child carving initials into the bark of a tree. Decades later, those letters still remain, swallowed slowly as rings build outward, carried forward like a memory folded into the tree's body. Speculative thought asks, what if trees not only record climate, but emotions? What if rings carried echoes of the people who rested beneath them, prayed near them, whispered secrets against their bark? Could joy or grief seep into wood, preserved as subtle patterns invisible to science but real nonetheless? Perhaps this is why some trees feel heavy, as if holding sorrows too great, while others feel light, as though filled with laughter of centuries. There is also a sobering lesson. When forests are cut, when old trees fall, their rings end, their diaries are closed, their voices silenced. Each trunk carries an archive unique to itself, and once gone, those pages cannot be recovered. It is like burning a library of time. To protect ancient trees is not only to protect shade or oxygen, but to preserve history itself, written in the language of circles. A meditation may help you sense this. Close your eyes. Imagine you are holding a wooden disc, its rings clear. Run your finger slowly outward, tracing circle after circle. Each one is a year, a memory. Some are tight, some broad. Together, they create a rhythm. Hardship, abundance, hardship again, abundance again. Now imagine this disc expanding, becoming the trunk of a great tree. Place your hand on it. Feel centuries hum beneath your palm. As you breathe slowly, you realize you are part of those rings too, another event in the long diary of Earth. Even literature has borrowed from this imagery. The writer Hermann Hesse once compared trees to preachers, teaching patience and endurance. He wrote that their rings showed not only age but character, recording battles with storms and seasons. To him, trees were biographies carved in silence. And indeed, every tree is both story and storyteller, both witness and monument. Science will continue to measure rings, to calibrate time, to reconstruct climate. But for us, perhaps it is enough simply to imagine, to think that somewhere, right now, deep in a trunk, a line is being drawn, marking this very year. We may not see it, but it is there a future historian's clue, a circle of memory forming in the dark. So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, picture yourself as a tree. Imagine your experiences as rings expanding outward. This year, no matter how hard, no matter how joyful, becomes part of your circle. You do not lose the past. You carry it, layer upon layer, forming strength through accumulation. Rest, then, in the thought that you, too, are an archive, one whose rings are invisible, but no less real. Trees remind us that memory is not something we leave behind, but something we grow into. Each ring is a record, each line a whisper. You have endured, you are enduring, you will endure. For as long as humans have lifted their eyes to the sky, trees have stood as living symbols of mystery. More than shelter, more than food, they have been emblems of spirit-silent metaphors for life, death, and the endless cycle of rebirth. To look at a tree is to glimpse more than biology. It is to see a mirror of the soul, a reminder that existence is layered, cyclical, and eternal. Consider first the symbolism of life. A seed cracks open, a fragile sprout emerges, roots dig into the dark, and a trunk rises toward light. In this growth, people across cultures saw an allegory for birth itself. In Hindu traditions, the Ashwatha tree is revered as eternal, its roots reaching upward into the heavens, its branches extending downward into earthly life. In many African stories, the baobab is described as the first tree, planted at the dawn of time to anchor life itself. Even today, in languages worldwide, family connections are drawn as family trees, their branches representing generations, their roots ancestry. To describe life without trees would be to remove one of its clearest metaphors. Yet trees also embody death. Their falling leaves each autumn remind us of endings, quiet and graceful. Their bare branches in winter appear skeletal, stark against pale skies. Some cultures saw these images as omens, others as truths, that life inevitably bends toward silence. In Norse mythology, Yggdrasil, the world tree, is destined to wither during Ragnarok, signaling the end of the cosmos itself. In Christianity, the tree becomes the site of crucifixion, both a place of death and the doorway to salvation. Trees do not shy away from death. They weave it into their cycles, teaching us that endings are not failures but transitions. And then there is rebirth. After winter's stillness, spring arrives. Buds swell, leaves unfurl, blossoms open. Each year, the forest resurrects itself. What appeared lifeless proves vibrant once again. To ancient Egyptians, the sycamore tree was associated with the goddess Hathor, who offered rebirth to souls of the dead. In Buddhism, the Bodhi tree is not just a symbol of enlightenment, but of transformation, the rebirth of a man into Buddha. Trees remind us that death is never final, but a pause before renewal. Many stories illustrate this truth. In Hiroshima, after the devastation of 1945, much of the city lay in ruin. Yet months later, camphor trees near the blast site sprouted new leaves. Survivors saw them as emblems of resilience and rebirth, a sign that life would continue despite unimaginable loss. In medieval Europe, villagers often planted trees in cemeteries, believing the roots would intertwine with the dead, recycling their essence into new life. To walk through such graveyards is to see life and death entwined in living form. Speculative thought deepens the symbolism. What if trees truly are vessels for souls, each root a tether, each leaf a whisper? When we feel calm beneath their branches, perhaps it is not only shade but spirit. We feel the accumulated presence of those who lived before us. What if rebirth is not abstract but literal? The molecules of our bodies one day returning as sap, bark, leaf, or fruit. In that sense, trees are not just symbols of cycles, they are the cycles themselves. Science, too, supports this vision. When a tree dies, it does not vanish. Its trunk becomes food for fungi, its leaves mulch for soil, its nutrients nourishment for seedlings. Death fuels life, endlessly. Even carbon, released from its body, returns to the air, feeding new photosynthesis. In the forest, nothing is wasted. Every ending is folded into a beginning. Humans, by contrast, often fear death as a wall. Trees remind us it is instead a doorway. Cultures have ritualized this symbolism. In Celtic lore, the yew tree represented eternity, its dark needles and longevity, making it a natural marker of graves. In Asia, cherry blossoms symbolize the brevity of life, their sudden bloom and swift fall, reminding us of both beauty and impermanence. In Judaism, the holiday Tu B'Shvat, the New Year of the Trees, celebrates renewal, planting trees as a sign of hope for the future. Each tradition, in its own way, uses trees to anchor the mysteries of existence. A meditation can bring this home. Close your eyes. Imagine standing in a forest at dawn. Around you are signs of every stage of life. A sapling pushes upward, trembling and fresh. A mature oak towers above, steady and protective. Nearby, a fallen log lies covered in moss, slowly returning to soil. Together, they form a circle: birth, growth, death, renewal. As you breathe, you realize you are part of this circle too. Your joys are blossoms, your struggles are winters, Your transformations are spring. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is final. All flows into all. Many stories of rebirth abound in literature. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke once wrote, "Everything is gestation and then bringing forth." He compared human existence to the patience of seeds and trees cycling endlessly. In modern times, writers describe forests regrowing after fires, likening them to human communities rising from tragedy. Wherever we look, trees offer metaphors not of despair, but of continuity. What if we lived more like trees? What if we accepted endings not as defeats, but as necessary transitions? What if we honored death not with fear, but with reverence, trusting in renewal? Perhaps we would live more gently, more gratefully. Perhaps we would find peace in impermanence. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, picture yourself as part of a great forest. You are not only alive, you are part of life's entire circle. You are seed and sprout, bloom and leaf, trunk and root, fall and soil. You are birth, you are death, you are rebirth. Let this truth cradle you. Nothing is lost, everything transforms. The forest knows this, the trees live it, and in your dreams, you can rest in the comfort of their eternal cycle. Long before cathedrals of stone were raised, before temples of marble gleamed in sunlight, humans prayed beneath trees. Forests were their first sanctuaries, groves their earliest temples. In the hush of leaves and the dim light of canopies, they felt the presence of something greater: gods, spirits, ancestors, or simply the mystery of existence itself. To walk into a sacred grove is to feel the air change, as if the trees themselves are guardians of silence and reverence. Across cultures, these groves became holy ground. In ancient Greece, sacred groves were dedicated to gods. The oak groves of Dodona, for example, were believed to be oracles. Priests listened to the rustling of leaves and interpreted them as Zeus's voice. Imagine them sitting quietly, straining to hear not words but whispers of wind, finding in those murmurs the guidance of the divine. In India, groves known as divrai or sarana were preserved for deities. To cut a tree there was taboo, for the grove was not property, but temple. Even today, many villages in India maintain these sacred spaces, where biodiversity flourishes because reverence protects it. To step inside is to find birds, flowers, and silence intertwined, each cared for not by law, but by belief. Among the Celts, oak groves were places where druids gathered, where rituals unfolded beneath the vast arms of ancient trees. The word nemeton described these sanctuaries, which were both natural and supernatural. To the druids, groves were thresholds, spaces where earth touched the other world. Rituals performed there were amplified by the living cathedral of trunks and leaves. In Africa, too, sacred groves are woven into tradition. The Yoruba people protect groves where spirits dwell, such as the Osun-Osogbo Sacred Grove in Nigeria, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Within its trees stand shrines and sculptures, blending human art with natural sanctity. Visitors describe a sense of enchantment, as if every branch carries both shadow and blessing. Even in China and Japan, forests were revered. Shinto shrines are often surrounded by sacred groves, where ancient cedars stand like guardians. Rope and paper talismans mark holy trees, believed to house kami divine presences. Pilgrims bow before them, offering prayers not to statues, but to trunks alive with centuries. In Taoist thought, groves on mountainsides became retreats for sages, places where wisdom grew as surely as leaves. Many stories capture the intimacy of these groves. Imagine a traveler in ancient Greece, pausing in an olive grove, leaving a small offering of oil at the base of a tree. Imagine a mother in India, whispering a prayer beneath a banyan, asking for her child's health. Imagine a Celtic druid placing mistletoe high on oak branches, declaring it sacred. Across time and place, These acts shared the same essence: respect for trees as conduits to mystery. Speculative thought asks, what if groves are indeed temples, not metaphorically but literally? What if the mycelial networks beneath their soil amplify prayers the way stone walls amplify echoes? What if the rustle of leaves is not mere sound but response, an answer too subtle for words? To enter a grove might then be to enter dialogue, one where humans speak in whispers and the forest replies in breezes. Science adds another layer. Studies show that biodiversity thrives in groves, left untouched for spiritual reasons. Trees grow taller, birds more abundant, medicinal plants more varied. What faith preserved, science now confirms as essential for ecological health. Perhaps reverence was always wisdom, intuition, guiding survival. There is also symbolism in groves as communal sanctuaries. Unlike solitary temples, groves are inclusive: no walls, no gates, no hierarchies. Anyone can enter, anyone can listen. The forest does not distinguish between king and beggar, priest and wanderer. Beneath branches, all stand equal. Perhaps that is why people felt the divine there. Because in the forest, human boundaries dissolved, leaving only the vastness of life. A meditation can help you sense this. Close your eyes. Imagine walking into a grove at dusk. The air cools, light softens, shadows lengthen. You hear only birds and wind. The trunks rise like columns, their tops forming a vaulted roof of green. You sit on moss and feel the hush deepen. As you breathe, you sense presences not frightening, but watchful, kind. You whisper a thought, a hope, a prayer, and though no words return, the silence feels like an answer. Many stories also highlight endurance. In Poland, the Białowieża forest still holds groves untouched for centuries. Villagers once believed cutting those trees brought misfortune. Today, scientists marvel at their ancient ecosystems, recognizing that reverence preserved what industry might have destroyed. In Ghana, groves once guarded by taboo still harbor rare species. In each case, what began as faith became ecological sanctuary. Literature remembers too. Homer wrote of groves sacred to Artemis. Indian epics describe sages meditating beneath trees in secluded forests. Shakespeare filled his plays with references to woodland sanctuaries, where characters found clarity or love. Writers sensed what believers knew, that groves are not background but stage, not scenery but sacred space. Speculative thought bends again. What if sleep itself is a grove, a place you enter each night, leaving behind the noise of day, stepping into a hush where thoughts become prayers and dreams become answers? Perhaps to fall asleep is to walk into your own sacred forest, where branches of memory and hope intertwine. So tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine lying in a grove. Branches arch above you like stained glass, painted with moonlight. Roots cradle you gently. The air is cool, fragrant, steady. Around you, the silence is alive, humming softly, carrying your breath upward into stars. You are safe here, sheltered in the temple of trees, welcomed into their timeless sanctuary. Sacred groves remind us that holiness does not always require stone or ritual. Sometimes it is as simple as a circle of trees, a hush of leaves, a feeling of presence. Life, death, and spirit converge there, whispering what humans have always longed to hear. You are not alone. You are part of something vast. You are held. Step into a forest at dawn, and you will quickly notice. Trees are never alone. Their branches, trunks, and roots are alive with company. Birds flit from limb to limb. Squirrels dash along bark highways. Insects hum in hidden chambers. Beneath the soil, burrows weave between roots. In the canopy above, nests balance like delicate cradles. To see a forest clearly is to see not separate beings, but partnerships. Trees and animals are threads of the same tapestry, woven so tightly that neither could exist as we know them without the other. Consider first the birds. They build their homes in branches, safe from predators. Woodpeckers carve holes in trunks, creating shelters not only for themselves, but for other creatures who move in later. Owls perch in hollowed spaces, their eyes glowing in twilight, guardians of the night. Tiny warblers flit among leaves, feeding on insects that might otherwise harm the tree. In return, birds carry seeds far and wide, dropping them in distant soils. Each flight, each song, is part of the forest's renewal. Then there are the mammals. Think of squirrels gathering acorns. They bury far more than they eat, forgetting caches that sprout into new oaks. Without their scatterbrained habits, forests would thin. Bats roost in foliage and spread seeds through their droppings, especially in tropical jungles. Monkeys feast on fruit, then carry its legacy to other clearings. Even large animals, like elephants, shape forests. In Africa and Asia, elephants break branches, clear paths, and disperse seeds across miles. The trees feed them, and in turn, they plant forests. Insects, too, are indispensable. Bees and butterflies pollinate blossoms, ensuring fruits and nuts will come. Ants patrol bark, defending trees against pests. Beetles recycle fallen wood into soil. Termites, often maligned, are master engineers, breaking down cellulose that would otherwise choke the forest floor. In every buzzing wing and crawling leg, the forest finds both challenge and balance. Cultures have noticed these relationships. In Native American stories, the chickadee is a bringer of wisdom, always flitting among branches. In Hindu tradition, monkeys sacred to Hanuman leap through trees as symbols of loyalty and courage. In Norse mythology, a squirrel named Ratatoska runs along Yggdrasil's trunk, carrying messages between the eagle at its crown and the serpent at its roots. Even myths recognize that trees and animals do not live apart but together, in constant dialogue. Many stories capture their intimacy. Imagine a bear scratching its back against a pine, leaving both fur and scent, marking its presence. Imagine a pair of doves building a nest in spring, weaving twigs into a cradle of trust. Imagine a colony of bats roosting in a fig tree, then departing at dusk to scatter its seeds across valleys. In each act, trees and animals shape one another's destinies. Science deepens the wonder. Entire ecosystems are defined by these interactions. A keystone tree, like the fig in tropical forests, provides fruit year-round, sustaining monkeys, birds, and bats. Without it, populations collapse. Conversely, without the animals to spread its seeds, the fig could not thrive. It is a cycle of dependence, an unspoken contract written in hunger and abundance. Speculative thought opens the imagination. What if trees feel gratitude when animals visit? What if the rustle of leaves we hear at dusk is a kind of applause, a thank you for pollination, for dispersal, for companionship? What if animals, too, sense this bond? A deer pausing beneath branches, a bird singing at dawn. Perhaps they are not only surviving but conversing, exchanging recognition in languages we cannot yet translate. There is also the role of trees as shelters. A single oak can host hundreds of species. Lichens on its bark, caterpillars on its leaves, foxes beneath its roots, owls within its hollows. Each part of the tree is alive with presence, each layer a neighborhood stacked upon another. To call a tree a home is not metaphor but fact. It is apartment, pantry, nursery, and sanctuary, all in one. A meditation may help you feel this truth. Close your eyes. Imagine standing in a forest clearing. You hear wings overhead, tiny rustles in leaves, the scamper of paws on bark. A squirrel pauses to look at you, tail twitching. Above, A bird calls, echoing across trunks. Beneath your feet, unseen insects move in earth. Slowly, you realize you are surrounded by lives, each small, each essential. You are not a visitor but part of a community, welcomed into a living village of trunks and wings. Many stories of resilience remind us of hope. After wildfires, animals return to charred forests. Birds perch on blackened branches, dropping seeds. Deer wander back to graze on tender shoots. Slowly, the forest regenerates. It is not the trees alone that rebuild, nor the animals, but both together. Recovery is never solitary, it is communal. Even literature echoes this bond. Aesop's fables tell of birds and trees negotiating shelter. Modern nature writing celebrates the dance of squirrels and oaks, bees and blossoms. We return again and again to this theme because it feels true. Life flourishes not alone, but together. Speculative thought bends once more. What if dreams themselves are forests of animals and trees? Perhaps when we sleep, we wander those landscapes, reminded unconsciously that we belong to a larger whole. Maybe this is why listening to forest sounds soothes us, because deep within, we recognize our place among them. So tonight, as you rest, imagine trees around you, alive not only with leaves, but with creatures. Hear the owl's call as reassurance. Feel the flutter of bats, like the turning of pages in a book. Picture squirrels planting tomorrow's forests, birds scattering future orchards. You are among companions, not strangers. The forest watches over itself, and in doing so, it watches over you. Trees and animals remind us that life is never solitary. It is a network of needs and gifts, risks and rewards, silence and song. To honor one is to honor the other, and to sleep with this knowledge is to sleep in the embrace of a community older than humanity itself. If forests are libraries, then literature is their echo. From the earliest myths carved into clay tablets to modern novels printed on paper born from trees themselves, writers have turned to trees as metaphors, companions, and mirrors of the human condition. In their stillness we find patience, in their growth, resilience, in their cycles, wisdom. To trace the presence of trees in literature is to follow humanity's own story, told again and again through branches and leaves. Consider the ancient epics. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest surviving works of human imagination, the cedar forest is a place of power, guarded by spirits. Gilgamesh and Enkidu journey there, knowing that to cut down those trees is both practical and sacrilegious. Already, thousands of years ago, humanity recognized forests as more than timber, they were realms of mystery. In Greek literature, oaks and laurels were sacred to gods. Homer describes groves dedicated to Artemis and Zeus, where whispers of leaves carried divine messages. The laurel, in particular, became a symbol of victory, woven into crowns for athletes and poets. Its evergreen leaves embodied eternal glory. Even today, to win laurels means to earn lasting honor, though the literal leaves have long faded. In poetry, trees have become almost inseparable from metaphor. The haiku masters of Japan often wrote of cherry blossoms, marveling at their brief but brilliant bloom. Basho's verses capture the poignancy of petals falling, a reminder that beauty and impermanence are twins. In English literature, William Wordsworth found solace in trees, describing them as the anchor of purest thoughts. Robert Frost wrote of birches bending under ice, likening them to childhood memories and the resilience of bending without breaking. Walt Whitman, in Leaves of Grass, declared that every blade and leaf reflected the human soul, vast and democratic. Many stories reveal how trees have shaped not only words, but lives. Imagine a poet sitting beneath a willow by a river, pen in hand, letting the slow sway of branches set the rhythm of his verse. Imagine a novelist in an orchard, listening to the creak of limbs in wind, weaving that sound into dialogue. Imagine a philosopher walking through a forest, pausing to rest against a trunk, realizing that wisdom grows in silence as much as in speech. Shakespeare, too, filled his plays with trees. In As You Like It, the Forest of Arden becomes a stage for transformation, where characters shed old identities and discover new truths. In Macbeth, Birnam Wood seems to march, fulfilling a prophecy. In his works, trees are never background. They are agents of fate, silent yet powerful. Speculative thought stirs the imagination further. What if the rustle of leaves is itself a kind of literature, a natural poetry composed in sound rather than ink? What if the grain of wood, its swirls and knots, are stories we have not yet learned to read? Humans carve words into paper, but perhaps trees already carry novels within their fibers, written by rain, sun, and time. Even in sacred texts, trees dominate imagery. The Bible speaks of the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. In the Quran, the Sidrat al-Muntaha is the lote tree, marking the boundary of divine knowledge. In Buddhist sutras, the Bodhi tree shelters enlightenment. Trees appear wherever humans grapple with mystery, as if our deepest questions require their rooted stillness and reaching branches to feel whole. A meditation can help you feel this truth. Close your eyes. Picture yourself holding a book. Its pages are made of trees, yet within them, stories of trees abound. You read of cherry blossoms falling, oaks whispering, laurels crowning, birches bending. With each word, you realize you are reading not only human voices, but echoes of forests. As you turn a page, you hear the faint rustle of paper, a mimicry of leaves. The book itself is a forest speaking to you. Modern literature continues this lineage. J.R.R. Tolkien gave us the Ents, tree-like guardians, who move slowly but think deeply, embodying patience and power. Richard Powers, in his novel The Overstory, wove together human lives and tree lives, reminding readers that our stories are intertwined. Even children's books like The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein continue to shape generations, teaching lessons of sacrifice, love, and complexity through the image of a single tree. Why do writers return again and again to trees? Perhaps because trees embody paradox. They are both fragile and strong, fleeting and eternal, silent and expressive. They bend without breaking, die yet return, stand still yet move in wind. They mirror us in ways animals and rivers cannot. To write about trees is to write about ourselves, stretched between earth and sky, longing for permanence, yet bound to change. Many stories of readers deepen this connection. A person grieving may read under a tree, finding comfort in its presence. A student may study literature in a shaded park, associating words with branches overhead. A traveler may journal beneath palms, each line punctuated by the sway of fronds. In these moments, literature and trees entwine not only in metaphor, but in experience. Speculative thought bends once more. What if the act of writing is itself tree memory, transformed? Ink across paper becomes a continuation of rings across wood. Perhaps every poem is a tree speaking through us. Every novel, a forest, translated into human tongue. If so, then, to sleep after reading is to return those words to dreams, placing them back into soil where they can root again. So tonight, as you drift, imagine yourself lying beneath a tree made of words. Its trunk is poetry, its branches prose, its leaves pages fluttering gently. You rest beneath its shade, reading not with eyes, but with heart. The stories comfort you, reminding you that you are part of something vast, an unending tale told by forests and humans alike. Trees in literature and poetry remind us that imagination itself grows best when rooted. They anchor our words, as they anchor our lives. And as you fall asleep, you can let their stories carry you into dreams where forests speak, where books are groves, and where every rustle of leaves is a line of verse written just for you. There is a special kind of silence that surrounds a solitary tree. Unlike forests, where trunks rise in crowds and leaves form vast choirs, the lone tree stands apart, a figure on the horizon, marked against sky and field. To see such a tree is to feel both awe and melancholy. It is strength in solitude, beauty in isolation, resilience written in bark. Imagine a single oak on a windswept hill. Its branches spread like arms, crooked from years of storms. Birds still roost there, sheep still shade beneath it, children still climb its limbs, but the oak stands largely alone, its silhouette a landmark for miles. Generations may have passed it, farmers ploughing fields, travelers pausing to rest, yet it endures. The oak is both sentinel and survivor, carrying centuries in its rings. Solitary trees exist everywhere. In the African savanna, the acacia spreads wide crowns against vast plains, offering shade to elephants, giraffes, and lions. In deserts, date palms rise like green lanterns beside oases, lifelines of fruit and water. On icy cliffs, pines cling stubbornly, their roots splitting stone, defying winds that would flatten lesser beings. In each case, aloneness becomes emblem of strength. Cultures have often woven meaning into such figures. In Celtic tradition, the lone hawthorn tree was believed to house fairies, and to harm it was to invite misfortune. In Japanese art, solitary pines are painted against mountains and seas, symbols of endurance and quiet dignity. In Christian imagery, the solitary tree often represents both suffering and salvation, echoing the cross itself, rooted yet transcendent. Many stories bring these symbols alive. Think of the famous sycamore gap tree in Northumberland, England, once standing alone in a valley between rolling hills. Visitors described it as both melancholy and majestic, a place where lovers carved initials and photographers captured sunsets. Its presence became so iconic that when it was felled, people mourned as if for a friend. Or think of the lone cypress on the coast of California, perched on granite for more than 250 years, battered by ocean winds, a sentinel for travelers along the Pacific. To stand before it is to feel humility. How can such fragility persist in such power? Speculative thought deepens the resonance. What if solitary trees carry the memories of not just themselves, but of landscapes once crowded? Perhaps the lone oak in a field once belonged to a forest, now gone. Its solitude is not only survival but testimony, a living witness of what was. In this sense, each solitary tree is a storyteller, whispering of vanished companions, of times when trunks stood shoulder to shoulder. Science, too, offers perspective. Solitary trees often live differently than forest trees. Without competition for light, they spread wider crowns, growing broad and full. Their roots may reach deeper, anchoring against storms. Yet their exposure also makes them vulnerable. Lightning strikes, winds unbroken, droughts endured without neighbors to buffer them. Their survival is a balance between resilience and risk, and still, many endure for centuries, even millennia. Literature and art repeatedly turn to these figures. In poetry, solitary trees often symbolize the individual facing the world, isolated, perhaps misunderstood, but steadfast. Painters have framed them against sunsets, making them silhouettes of longing. Composers have likened their stillness to single notes held in vast silence. Humans see themselves in these trees, alone, yet capable of beauty, vulnerable, yet capable of endurance. A meditation can help you feel this truth. Close your eyes. Picture a solitary tree in your mind. Perhaps it is an oak on a hill, or a pine on a cliff, or a palm in the desert. See it standing against the horizon, branches wide, roots deep. Walk toward it in imagination. Place your hand on its bark. Feel its strength, not arrogant, not boastful, but steady. You realize that though it stands alone, it is never truly alone. Birds visit, winds embrace, soil nourishes, sky crowns. Its solitude is not emptiness, but presence, amplified by silence. Many stories of human connection echo this. A traveler lost in the desert finds an oasis palm, its fruit saving him. A child, bullied at school, finds solace sitting beneath a lone oak, writing dreams in a notebook. A soldier, weary from battle, sees a solitary tree on the horizon, and its silhouette becomes a symbol of hope, of something still standing when so much has fallen. Trees, in their solitude, remind us that endurance is possible. Speculative thought bends further. What if each solitary tree is a prayer planted in soil, lifted toward heaven, its branches hands outstretched? What if the wind that moves through it is not only nature, but responds a dialogue between earth and sky, between strength and longing? Perhaps this is why people so often gravitate toward lone trees, to sit beneath them, to photograph them, to remember them. They are not just plants, they are companions of our solitude. And yet, their lesson is not only about strength. Solitary trees also teach humility. They remind us that standing alone is not easy, that resilience comes with scars. Their bark is roughened, their branches often broken, yet they continue. They do not hide their wounds, but wear them openly, showing that survival is not perfection, but persistence. So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, imagine a solitary tree in your dreams. It rises against the horizon, strong yet scarred, alone yet alive. You sit beneath it, feeling both its loneliness and its power. Its branches shade you, its roots ground you, its silence comforts you. In that moment, you realize that solitude is not always absence. It can also be presence, distilled and pure. The solitary tree symbolizes the paradox of life, that we may sometimes stand apart, but even in isolation, we are connected to sky, soil, wind, and memory. Strength does not always require a forest. Sometimes it requires a single trunk, standing quietly, enduring patiently, living beautifully. To speak of trees is to speak not only of the past and present, but also of the future. Forests have been humanity's companions for millennia, shaping our breath, our myths, our shelters, our words. Yet today, we face a crossroads. Deforestation, climate change, and expansion threaten these companions, and still, amid the shadows of loss, there rises a movement of hope, reforestation, protection, renewal. The story of trees is not finished. It is one we are still writing, branch by branch, seed by seed. Consider the scale of what has been lost. Each year, millions of hectares of forest vanish, cleared for farms, logging, or development. The Amazon, often called the lungs of the earth, loses thousands of square kilometers annually. Each acre cut down means fewer homes for animals, fewer leaves to absorb carbon, fewer roots to anchor soil. To watch forests disappear is to watch the planet's resilience weaken. And yet, even in grief, seeds remain. Reforestation offers a different narrative. Around the world, people are planting trees in record numbers. In India, volunteers planted more than 66 million trees in a single day, filling riverbanks and roadsides with green hope. In China, vast projects have transformed deserts into forests, slowing sandstorms and cooling air. In Africa, the Great Green Wall initiative stretches across the Sahel, aiming to plant trees from coast to coast, turning barren land into living corridors. Each project is a reminder. What has been cut can be regrown. What has been lost can be renewed. Science supports this vision. Trees absorb carbon dioxide, slowing climate change. They cool cities, provide food, restore water cycles. Mangroves shield coastlines from storms. Urban trees reduce stress in humans, lower temperatures, even boost productivity. To plant a tree is not only an act of ecology, it is an act of kindness, of foresight, of faith in the future. Many stories bring this future closer. In Rwanda, farmers once cut down forests for survival. Today, many are part of community projects planting fruit trees, which feed families while restoring soil. In Ethiopia, a man named Abebe planted thousands of trees on degraded land, transforming a barren hillside into a thriving forest. In Kenya, the late Wangari Maathai and her Green Belt movement mobilized women to plant millions of trees, linking reforestation with empowerment and dignity. These are not grand myths, but quiet revolutions, where hands in soil create hope for generations. Speculative thought expands the horizon. What if cities of the future are designed as forests? Imagine skyscrapers covered in vertical gardens, rooftops crowned with orchards, highways lined with green corridors for pollinators and birds. What if drones scattered seeds over deserts, turning dunes into groves? What if genetic science revived extinct species of trees, bringing back lost giants? In such futures, our children might inherit not a barren earth, but one greener than today, a planet healed by intention. There is also a spiritual responsibility. If sacred groves once protected forests through reverence, perhaps we need to rekindle that reverence. To plant a tree is not only a scientific act, it is ritual, prayer, legacy. Each sapling is a statement, I believe in tomorrow. Each grove restored is an offering to generations yet unborn. The future of trees is also the future of us, for we breathe together. A meditation may help you feel this responsibility as comfort rather than burden. Close your eyes. Picture yourself holding a seedling, small and fragile. You dig a hole, place it gently in soil, cover it, and water it. Days pass, then weeks, then years. The sapling grows, taller and stronger, until one day it shades children playing beneath it. Birds nest in its branches. Rain cools its leaves. Its roots hold the earth together. You may not live to see it fully grown, but you know it will outlast you. In this act, you become part of continuity, part of hope itself. Many stories of resilience remind us that trees are patient allies. In places once clear-cut, secondary forests are returning, green shoots pushing through ash. In Chernobyl, where humans fled, birches and pines reclaimed the land, reminding us that life persists even in tragedy. After wildfires, charred landscapes often burst into green within months, fire-resistant species sprouting anew. Trees do not despair. They regenerate. Their patience is their protest. Literature also turns toward this future. Writers describe trees as time travelers, companions who will stand when we are gone. Poets urge planting as legacy, reminding readers that shade is enjoyed most by those who did not plant it. In many traditions, planting trees for the dead is a way to honor life. The act of reforestation, then, is not only ecological but emotional. It binds us to memory, gratitude, and continuity. Speculative thought bends one final time. What if reforestation is not only about saving Earth, but about transforming humanity? What if planting trees together creates peace, bridging divides between nations and communities? Imagine former battlefields turned into orchards, borders softened by shared groves. Perhaps the act of planting could be our most universal language, a way of saying, we choose life. So tonight, as you drift toward rest, imagine the earth of tomorrow, hills once bare now clothed in forests, cities humming with green towers, children walking to school under canopies of shade, oceans guarded by mangroves, deserts softened by acacias, valleys rich with orchards. Imagine your own breath, lighter and calmer, knowing that trees are breathing with you. The future of trees is not a story apart from us. It is our story. To plant them is to plant tomorrow. To care for them is to care for ourselves. To imagine them is to imagine hope. As our journey through the world of trees draws to a close, let us step into the forest one final time, not as travelers seeking knowledge, but as dreamers seeking rest. Night has fallen. The sky is a vast canvas of stars, and the trees stand as silhouettes against the silver glow of moonlight. Their branches sway slowly in the evening breeze, like guardians whispering lullabies to the earth. To lie here, beneath their watch, is to surrender to a calm older than memory. Think back to what we have seen together. Trees, as lungs of the earth, breathing with us. Trees as ancient beings, carrying lifespans that outlast empires. Trees as storytellers, their rings recording history, their myths carrying human imagination. Trees as healers, calming minds and bodies. Trees as sanctuaries, sacred groves where silence itself becomes holy. Trees as companions to animals, poets, and dreamers alike. Each chapter has been a leaf, each fact a root, each reflection a branch. Together, they have formed a canopy of meaning, sheltering us in knowledge and wonder. But beyond science and story lies something simpler, presence. To be with trees is to be reminded that life does not hurry. They do not fret about tomorrow. They stand, they grow, they bend, they endure. Their patience is not passive, it is profound. And when we rest in their shade, we too remember how to slow down. Cultures, across time, understood this. The Norse envisioned Yggdrasil, binding the cosmos. Buddhists found enlightenment beneath a Bodhi tree. Druids sought wisdom in oak groves. Indigenous peoples saw forests as kin, ancestors standing in wooden form. Even today, we plant trees for the dead, for the newborn, for peace, for memory. Trees are not only life forms, they are symbols of continuity, bridges across generations. Many stories echo this truth. A soldier far from home writes a letter beneath a lonely acacia. Its branches are comfort. A grandmother plants a mango tree, knowing her grandchildren will taste its fruit long after she is gone. A child carves initials into bark, a mark of fleeting love preserved for decades. These moments remind us, trees witness us, even when we do not notice them. Speculative thought carries us gently into sleep. What if, in dreams, trees continue their watch? What if every rustle of leaves you hear tonight is not wind, but a message? Rest now, you are safe. What if stars above are lanterns hung in the branches of a cosmic tree, each one lighting your path through dreams? Perhaps the very act of sleep is like planting a seed the mind withdraws, roots inward, then awakens renewed, sprouting into a new day. A meditation can close our journey. Close your eyes. Picture yourself lying beneath a great tree. Its roots cradle you like a hammock. Its branches spread overhead, forming a ceiling of leaves. Through gaps, stars glimmer softly, as though constellations themselves were fruit hanging above. You hear the gentle hush of wind moving through foliage, a sound like breathing. With each inhale, you draw in calm. With each exhale, you release worry. Slowly, your body feels heavy, grounded, as though roots of your own are sinking into earth. You are no longer apart from the forest, you are part of it. And in this stillness, let gratitude arise. Gratitude for the oxygen in your lungs, for the shade in summer, for the colors of autumn, for the promise of renewal each spring. Gratitude for the stories trees carry, the shelter they provide, the patience they embody, gratitude even for their silence, which speaks louder than words. Literature has often used trees as closing images, and so shall we. The poet Khalil Gibran wrote, "Trees are poems the earth writes upon the sky. To sleep beneath them is to fall asleep inside a poem, each leaf a stanza, each branch a line, each star a punctuation mark. Let that poetry cradle you now. So as you drift into dreams, remember this: the trees are still standing, in forests, in fields, in deserts, in cities they keep their watch. They breathe as you breathe, they endure as you endure, they rest as you rest. You are not alone in the night. You are held in an ancient companionship, one that stretches back through time and forward into tomorrow. Sleep then, beneath their quiet guardianship. Dream of their branches reaching into starlight. Dream of their roots holding the earth steady. Dream of their leaves whispering your name. And when morning comes, know that they will still be there, waiting, breathing, reminding you that patience is power and continuity is grace. Trees, after all, are more than life. They are reminders that life, even in its endings, continues. They are the guardians of sleep, the keepers of silence, the companions of dreams. And tonight, as you rest, they are your watchful friends, standing tall beneath the stars.